Africa, followed by the U.S. and Indonesia.
Daniel Silliman with us, news editor from Christianity Today, also author of Reading Evangelicals, How Christian Fiction Shaped a Culture and a Faith. Daniel, while we're talking about the Methodist Church around the world, let's talk about what's going on in Hungary. Really interesting. Federal agents raided an independent Methodist church. Tell us the story.
Yeah, Hungary, as people know, just had an election. President or Prime Minister, actually, Viktor Orban was reelected for a fourth time. And from our reporting, most evangelicals have supported Orban, even though he's a pretty controversial figure internationally and in Hungary as well. He has kind of tweaked, I think is maybe the kindest way to say it. He's tweaked a lot of the institutions like the courts and the election system in favor of his party. He has severely restricted the sort of free press in the country, so there's state-run press that's supportive of the party in power, and really sort of anti-democratic, authoritarian tendencies. But he's also a conservative. He stands against liberal Europe, and that's a big concern for a lot of Christians there. But there are some people who've taken a stand against him, including, and this is what is really interesting, a Wesleyan pastor who used to be Orban's own pastor. Orban, at one point, sort of had a religious reawakening, and he got remarried in church. He took a secular marriage and sort of recommitted himself in church. He had both his sons baptized, and all of that was done with this pastor named Gabor Ivani, who's a Wesleyan. And Gabor Ivani has really spoken out and condemned Orban's authoritarian politics. He said it's reminiscent of the fascism that Hungary has had to stand against before and needs to stand against again. And in response, there have been these government investigations of Ivani's church. It seems clear that there might be some political motivations behind these investigations, but one resulted in a raid of Ivani's Methodist Church and charitable organization. The government is claiming that they failed to pay more than $700,000 in U.S. dollars in taxes. Ivani, of course, disputes this. He says it's because Orban is mad at him.
Wow. Daniel Silliman is with us in Christianity Today. We're going around the globe and talking about Christian stories that have an impact on us. Okay, Daniel, how about let's go to Spain and talk about the Spanish authorities naming streets after Protestant women.
Yeah, I loved this story. Kind of random, but it was super great. So one town in Spain, Seville, doing a project and sort of recognizing the impact of women in the history of the city. And as they did the research, a bunch of the women that they found were actually Protestant women. Turns out that during the Reformation, of course, Spain stayed a Catholic country and didn't go with Germany or England or some of the other places that sort of went with the reformers. But there were people inspired by the Reformation in Spain, and a lot of them, it turns out, were women who were critical of the church. So Seville, trying to think about the history of women and the role of women in the history of the city, is renaming several streets and squares, I think 4 total, after some of these Protestant women who are really kind of remarkable if you dig into their lives, which hopefully some people will see these names and wonder who these women were.
Daniel Silliman with us. Check out his book called Reading Evangelicals. Daniel, let's talk about what's going on with the Hillsong situation. Based in Sydney, Australia. Of course, Hillsong, I think, has 22 different sites here in the U.S., some of which have shut down or closed their doors temporarily, at least over the last month or so. Tell us where we are with that.
Yeah, Hillsong's been kind of a mess recently.
Sure.
kind of a series of scandals. It goes back to Frank Houston, the founder, being accused of sexually abusing a young man. But the revelations came out sort of shortly after Frank Houston died. But recently they were revived, and the accusations are that Frank's son, Brian, who until recently was the leader of the global mega church movement in Australia, but also in the U.S. and elsewhere. But there were accusations that Brian knew about his father's sexual abuse and failed to report it. And there's a trial going on right now in Australia with that. And then combined with a couple of other things, including some other scandals, including a pastor in New York who was having an extramarital affair with someone outside the church, someone who actually originally didn't even know he was a pastor. But then there are allegations that denominational leadership knew about these kinds of things and was looking the other way. And so it's caused a sort of kind of a rolling scandal, and Brian Houston just sort of stepped down or backed out, I guess. He's been the leader of Hillsong for 40 years, so this is quite a startling. I mean, it's like watching the Titanic go down right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a significant,
right.
And people criticize them, all sorts of ways for, theology or emphasizing reaching famous people over reaching regular people, stuff like that. But I don't know that anyone saw stuff like this happening. There were several other recent accusations against Houston, too, which I should just mention, including that he spent some time alone with a woman in a hotel. The board says he was confused because he was on some kind of sleeping pills or something. It's not a totally plausible explanation from my point of view, but that's part of what's happening.
Right. I don't know whether that makes it better or worse. Dan, what about the documentary on Hillsong that's on Discovery Plus? Have you seen it?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
Okay. So I know a ton of people who've seen it. I haven't seen it yet either. I don't subscribe to that. But I think I'm going to, delve into it over the next week or so and kind of check out the situation. It is like kind of watching the Titanic crash. At the same time, so much of our music at any church that does contemporary stuff has come from Hillsong over the last decade or so. I think it's certainly important for each one of us to kind of find out exactly what's going on, and maybe, Dan, not so that we can just be gawkers and say, look at how horribly they've done it, but maybe we can look at it and learn from it. So how do you approach that? You see these stories in particular about that one, but there are other ones that we're not going to have a chance to get to. From your perspective as a news reporter, you look at those and you think, okay, I'm putting these out so that history doesn't repeat itself?
Yeah, definitely. So we can start there. For me, the interesting question, or the place I am drawn and feel like it's worth focusing, is always on questions of accountability, right? We know that people are sinners, so that's not surprising. We know that people do bad stuff, that we should just expect, but we build systems. We have elders, we have churches, church boards, we have accountability, and anytime something like this happens, you're talking about a failure of accountability, right? This isn't a case where somebody sins and the people of God were around them, correcting them, making sure that the people who were hurt were taken care of. This is cases where people weren't held accountable and stuff was made secret, and the damage got a lot worse. So I try and encourage people to think, okay, your church isn't Hillsong, but how are you holding people accountable? What are the checks and balances that you have in place? We all have sinned and will sin again, and we all need to have oversight of our leaders.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, thanks. We always appreciate you putting your finger on what's happening around the world. We tend to focus, as I said, you coming in, about what's happening in our own neighborhood or in our own city or in our own country. So we forget about the rest of the world and their lifting up or not of Jesus Christ in this world. So always good to have you with us for that reminder and your reporting.
Thanks, John and Kathy. It's always great to be here. And if people want to check it out, it's in the May-June issue of Christianity Today, and we sort of round up these little stories about the church from all over the world, good, bad, depressing, inspiring, but really trying to help us put our own local faith in broader perspective.
Very good. Daniel Silliman, Christianity Today, where he's the news editor. Gleanings is what we're talking about. His reporting about Christianity around the world. Also, Daniel is the author of Reading Evangelicals. We'll take a quick break, step away. Hey, school's almost over. Next year, if your child, you yourself, interested in a quality Christian school, we've got details about half-price tuition next.
Dr. Mehmet Oz confessed, quote, "I'm not socially conservative." Mehmet Oz is a liberal on guns. Listen to him in his own words.
How do we keep guns out of the wrong person's hands? Red flag laws.
Even worse, Oz supported New Zealand-style forced government gun buybacks, tracking gun owners with universal licensing, and an assault rifle ban. No wonder Mehmet Oz confessed, quote, "I'm not socially conservative." Mehmet Oz, a Hollywood liberal and total fraud. Dave McCormick, he's an Iraq combat veteran with a Bronze Star. He's a proud son of Pennsylvania and a sportsman. Dave McCormick is a conservative who you can trust to stand up to the woke liberal mob and protect your Second Amendment rights. Honor Pennsylvania, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Paid for by Honor Pennsylvania, Inc. HonorPennsylvania.com.
Why doing it right? Roofing, siding, remodeling? It's simple. It's in their name.
Doing It Right uses only top quality materials and employs only experienced installation and management people to install and oversee your project.
Family owned and operated for 38 years, and with over 45 years of industry experience, you can be confident that your project will be installed the correct way.
Doing It Right does business honestly, taking no money down and collecting balance upon completion.
You'll receive a lifetime labor warranty from Doing It Right.
Doing It Right does all work to manufacturers, National Roofing Contractors Association, and Vinyl Siding Institute guidelines and specifications for a complete and headache-free installation.
Doing It Right is an Owens Corning Platinum contractor and James Hardy preferred contractor.
Most importantly, they're affordable, offering great financing options and accepting all major credit cards.
Be sure to mention John and Kathy for a discount off your roofing, siding, and remodeling estimates.
Call 724-NEW-ROOF or find them at roofingcontractorpittsburgh.com.
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, offering generous financial aid, prepares students for ministry with Master of Divinity, Master of Arts, Doctor of Ministry, and certificate programs designed for students called as leaders of the church and our neighborhoods. Apply now for fall. Visit pts.edu.
April is National Donate Life Month. The need for organ donors is staggering. You're never too old to sign up as an organ donor and help improve the lives of others. Sign up and learn more at organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You could win $5,000 and bless an organization with $5,000 in your name when you enter the Kindness Challenge.
Share your kindness with others. Go to wordfm.com to enter. That's wordfm.com.
101.5 WORD-FM Pittsburgh. On your smart speaker by saying, play the word Pittsburgh. And on your phone via the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
Cloudy and cooler tonight. A couple of heavy thunderstorms this evening, followed by a little rain late. Expect a low of 47. Mainly cloudy and cooler tomorrow. A brief but dramatic return to chillier weather. Will reach a high of only 57. Patchy clouds tomorrow night with a low of 36. Rather cloudy Wednesday and breezy with a shower in spots. Will reach a high Wednesday of 43. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Maybe you thought about sending your child to a quality Christian school, but for any number of reasons, location, cost, whatnot, you have yet to do so.
Well, I'm happy to say that half-price tuitions is back once again here at Word FM. Brandon McCall is with us. Brandon joins us from Cornerstone Christian Preparatory Academy in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Hey, Brandon, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So, Brandon, let's talk about that. I mean, people thinking about Christian schools, there's a lot of reasons people say, I can't or won't do that. Talk about the objections first.
Oh, no doubt, man. You know, parents, they have such a weighty call from God to train their children. And even the best parents know that they're going to need people to come alongside them to be a part of that process. And so many parents are worried today about whether or not the people that are coming alongside of them are going to actually support their biblical faith beliefs as a family. Yep. And that's true for teachers as well as what are other students going to believe. And that's a real big one. And then, you know, people think, wow, well, what if I can't afford that? Yep. Can I afford that? I often call it our most frequently unasked question about things like financial aid. How can we make it accessible? And that's a big thing for us, is trying to remove the barrier of cost and support people with financial aid. The Word FM half-price tuition discount stuff is another amazing way that we can make that kind of education with biblical community accessible for families, so those parents aren't worried when they send their kids off to school about what they're learning and who they're learning it with. It's really important for us.
That's really important. Fabulous. Great. Half-price tuition is going on right now. This is for first-time families, first-time students in quality Christian schools all across Western Pennsylvania. Check out wordfm.com. You'll see the low-cost tuition, half-price tuition banner at the very top of the page, half-price tuition at wordfm.com. Hey, Brandon, take a minute and talk to us about Cornerstone Christian Preparatory Academy, what you offer, student body, size, all those specifics.
Oh, that's a great question. We love talking about Cornerstone because we got such cool people. We learn, you know, some amazing stuff. And really, when we first started out, we are a pre-K through 12th grade school, and just united by a common mission of just discipling kids, you know, and the kind of families that come to us that are, you know, desiring to see their kids discipled and trained biblically. It makes a special culture, and it's really hard to describe what that looks like for somebody that might never have experienced it before. That's why we encourage people, come and check it out. Look us up online, you know, come and talk to us. You know, we are always looking for people like-minded, share the common faith, want biblical training for their kids. And whether you are in pre-K, a 3-year-old, or somebody who's a senior getting ready for whatever God's calling you to after high school, whatever that may be, you know, we just are excited to have you part of our community.
Well, Brandon, hey, thanks an awful lot. I'm happy to put the word out for you about Cornerstone Christian Preparatory Academy, the excellent work that you're doing. You can see the fruit of the labor by the students' work. If everyone's out there and you're thinking about a school for next year, I'd highly encourage you to grab on to Word FM's half-price tuition and take a good look at Cornerstone Christian Preparatory Academy in West Mifflin. Brandon McCall's been with us. Brandon, thanks so much. God bless you.
My pleasure. Same to you.
101.5 WORD.
Your station for Bryan Chapel and Unlimited Grace.
These people now in exile, they think about going back to Jerusalem, going to ascend the temple of praise. And they who are in exile and slavery say, God's not done. This is not the final chapter.
Unlimited Grace with Bryan Chapel, weekday afternoons at 1:30 on 101.5 WORD.
The goal of this commercial is to show you that if you buy a new home this year without using our 2 advantages, you will probably have made a pretty big boo-boo financially. I learned that word from my nieces. It's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage, and today we announced something brand new. For Word FM listeners on new home purchases this year, we will now pay $1,000 of your closing costs. And there's no gimmicks. We simply believe that home purchases are going to go up this year, and we want to excite you to use us. The second advantage is our direct lender advantage. Our mortgage team is an arm of a bigger company who is a direct lender, which means our company gets to use its own money within its own walls. There's no middleman, which often allows us to get you a better rate, saving you monthly and lifelong money. So don't make a boo-boo. Take advantage of our new $1,000 lender credit and our direct lender advantage. We are United Faith Mortgage.
United Mortgage Corp, Melville, New York. MLS number 1330. Department of Banking. Mortgage lender license number 22672.
Year after year, it's the same routine. Drop off the taxes, pick up the taxes, leave a check. Maybe it's time to work with a business CPA who is less transactional and more relational. For Mike Radich and the team at MGR CPA and Consultants, it's about more than crunching the numbers. It's about getting the advice you need for complex tax issues and business solutions. It's just a better return. MGR CPA and Consultants. Honesty, integrity, always. At mgrcpa.com.
Hi, I'm John Henney from Henney Jewelers. Since 1887, my family has helped people celebrate the most memorable moments in their lives. We are rooted in faith and commit to doing the right thing again and again. We believe in the covenant of marriage and use our To Have and To Hold program to encourage couples as they prepare to spend the rest of their lives together. Please stop into our Shadyside store to learn more or visit HenneyJewelers.com. Henney Jewelers, your jewelers for life.
What is a warrior? At Portersville Christian School, it's more than a team name. A warrior is taught to serve, to passionately model the love of Christ toward neighbor, community, and world. To learn as they cultivate academic excellence and a lifelong love of learning from kindergarten to senior year. And to lead through Christian character and integrity. Are you a warrior? Discover Portersville Christian School just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, where warriors are made at ourpcs.org.
Today, in front of the Supreme Court, the question is, how did an unknown high school football coach land in the center of the Supreme Court religious liberty case? Logan Spina is with us. Logan serves as legal counsel for the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom, where he defends the rights of students, professors, and organizations to speak, associate, and worship freely. Logan, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
Logan, this is unusual how this has all come to pass. Some guy who's just kind of minding his own business converted in a religious sense in his own personal life. Talk about how that translated into his job as a high school football coach and how he ended up before the Supreme Court.
Sure. So as pretty much all Supreme Court cases have, this one has a bit of a history to it. Coach Joseph Kennedy was at Bremerton School District out in Washington, and he served as the assistant coach on the high school football team and the head coach on the middle school team, or the junior high team. But he had a practice of just after the end of the game going to the 50-yard line by himself and silently praying to God, to thank God for the safety of the players, the results of the game, etc. And he believed he was called to do this. Over time, some students asked to join in with him, and he basically said, well, you're free to do what you want. He wasn't inviting students. He wasn't coercing students. He was engaged in his own private prayer, but others saw what he was doing and wanted to be a part of it. Eventually, he also gave some motivational speeches as more students had grown. There were other students from the other teams. The opposing team would sometimes participate. But basically, the school district never had a problem with this, never even knew about it until one of the teams who he invited to participate, one of the opposing teams, kind of complained about this. And so the school district thought that merely allowing this coach to engage in his own private expression on the field, the school was concerned that this would somehow violate the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. And so in their mind, to avoid violating the First Amendment, they had to restrict his religious exercise that's also protected by the First Amendment. And that's sort of why we were at the Supreme Court today.
Interesting. Okay, so the further back in the story is that Joe Kennedy's sitting at home, fresh out of a career in the Marines, and he says late night he's watching a movie, and the movie's about football. Do you know what this movie is?
My understanding, yeah, he'd seen the movie Facing the Giants.
Yeah, right. I mean, if anybody's seen that movie, it's a fabulous football film. I mean, every time I've seen it, it makes you cry. So there's Joe Kennedy. He's watching Facing the Giants, and he goes, God's speaking to me, and I'm going to make a promise to God that, if I get this job, when I take this job, I'll honor him by praying on the field. And so he did so privately. So where then is the sort of the problem with all this? Private prayer is protected, right? But is the problem that people are saying, well, it's not private anymore because you're on the 50-yard line, even though you have not invited the players to come and pray with you, people are still praying with you?
Right. So it's really two issues that kind of get mixed together. It's whether it counts as private in the first place and then whether it's protected anyway. The Supreme Court asked a very narrow question, and that's whether or not it counts as private when someone says a brief, quiet prayer by himself. And that's the right question to ask, because that was the practice that Coach Kennedy started with, right? Other people joined him, but it was voluntary. All right, so it's important to ask the legal question, was he protected when he got all of this started? We don't have to assess it, right, from the perspective of other people being involved voluntarily. So that ought to be considered private, but that's one of the issues that the Supreme Court has to decide. And then the other issue is basically an issue that schools around the country continually get wrong, and that is the schools seem to believe that merely allowing private religious expression is a violation of the Establishment Clause. The proper rule is that allowing private religious activity doesn't always amount to an endorsement of that activity, and therefore it doesn't violate the Establishment Clause. But kind of yet again, we have an opportunity for the Supreme Court to hopefully offer some guidance and be firmer this time so that public schools can stop committing this continuous error.
Logan Spina serves as legal counsel for the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom, where he defends the rights of students, professors, and organizations to speak, associate, and worship freely. Well, Logan, while we're talking about public prayer, or whether it's really an act, a personal act, but we're kind of watching it happen, it makes me think of the NFL. You know, I bet there's 150 million Americans that game per week during the season, and we see players who are praying all the time. How does this impact what would happen that we would see on television?
Right, so you see prayer or you see protest, for example, during the national anthem. One of the first questions that was asked in the court today was from Justice Thomas, and he asked the same question: what if instead of praying, Coach Kennedy had chosen to take a knee during the national anthem? One of the things that divides this case from many of the NFL cases is being a government employee, right? So the NFL players, they're not government employees. Coach Kennedy is, and that's why there is an issue with regard to the First Amendment's Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. All right, the government can't suppress his religious expression without violating the Free Exercise Clause, and yet the government is kind of claiming that it needs to do that, right, in order to comply with the Establishment Clause. The dynamics of public employment are kind of what distinguish this from the NFL cases, but nevertheless, the right rule that the Supreme Court should reach in this case is that his private expression was private nonetheless, and therefore the school didn't violate the Establishment Clause by allowing him to engage in that private prayer.
Right. So, Logan, it's kind of hard to crystal ball something like this. You watched some of the proceedings today. What's your take on this? I mean, Alliance Defending Freedom is not part of the case, although you did file an amicus in support of the case. What do we need to know? What do you think is going to happen?
So that's exactly right. We didn't represent anyone in the case, but did have the opportunity to file an amicus brief. And you're also right that, you know, kind of trying to prognosticate on these issues is a bit of a perilous task. I think there's good reason for optimism here, and that's in part because of the history of this case. It actually went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals all the way back in 2017 and was appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court then. The Supreme Court decided not to hear it because of the procedural posture of the case, but 4 justices signed on to a statement expressing severe concern with what had already gone on. Those were Justices Alito, Justice Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh, and Justice Gorsuch. Sorry. Well, so since then, it seems like those 4 justices are probably on Coach Kennedy's side on this case. And during the questioning today, Justice Coney Barrett asked some pretty probing questions of the other side's counsel and was especially concerned by the other side's counsel's claim that even private speech by a government employee might be so coercive in its effect on students that it could violate the Establishment Clause. Justice Barrett seemed very concerned by that, so she perhaps might be a 5th justice to vote on Coach Kennedy's side if that was a sufficient concern for her. And Chief Justice Roberts recently joined on to the Supreme Court's decision in the Janus case, which cast some doubt on some of these public employment rules and how broadly they might apply. So he might even be somebody who we could look at as potentially a vote for Coach Kennedy in this case. So there's good reason for optimism here.
So, Logan, would the court's decision be released close to the end of May?
I don't believe so. I don't follow the timing of the Supreme Court's decisions well enough to know for sure. I think it'd be closer to the end of this year.
I see.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's very interesting. Logan, before you leave us, talk to us about Alliance Defending Freedom. Tell us what the work that is being done. Alliance Defending Freedom has been with us over the years, but always appreciate you fighting for Christians.
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. We can be reached at adflegal.org. The team that I work for at ADF is called, as you mentioned, the Center for Academic Freedom, and so we focus on the rights of students and teachers and professors to speak and live freely with their faith in the public educational and university system. One of the major cases that we've handled recently was the case of Merriweather versus Harthoff, which is out of Shawnee State University, and that dealt with a professor who was disciplined for his refusal to use pronouns and titles that were inconsistent with a student's sex. ADF was able to represent Dr. Merriweather, see that he was able to prevail and win a settlement in that case, and it's the first appellate decision in the United States holding that a university's attempt to compel someone to use pronouns that they believe are false or titles that are inconsistent with someone's sex violates their First Amendment speech and free exercise rights. So those are the sorts of cases that we focus on at ADF, but we also do broader free exercise issues like the Masterpiece Cake Shop case. We also do direct assistance to church groups. So any of these kind of issues that you're potentially facing, if you're listening to this now, if you're a Christian, you're a person of faith, facing government restriction or compulsion, please contact us through adflegal.org.
That's Logan Spina, legal counsel for the Center for Academic Freedom with Alliance Defending Freedom. Logan, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Our great pleasure.
All right.
I certainly appreciate the work that they do, Alliance Defending Freedom. Okay, we'll take a quick break. Reset. Hey, we've got good news if you're looking for a job, especially if you want to be a mascot or you want to be an ice cream vendor. That's straight ahead on the ride home.
Spring is in the air. Spring is everywhere. Hi, it's me, Marcia from the Spring House, and spring is a great time of year on both our farm and our store. It kicks off with farm tours, and we just love sharing our farm with all those precious young folks. Graduation party season and wedding and shower season start up now, too. So my sister Jill and her catering crew are on the road in our red Spring House vans almost every day, delivering homemade country cooking to families all over the Tri-County area. My brother Sam and his farm guys are busy this time of year planting corn and pumpkins and hay, along with getting the cows milked and fed 2 times a day, too. The Spring House store crew loves serving all the families that come to visit, to enjoy our homemade lunches and suppers, to take a zing down our hillside slide, and to top off their experience with a Spring House ice cream concoction like a strawberry ice cream shortcake. Come see us and let us share a little of our farm with you at the Spring House. 724-228-3339 or springhousemarket.com.
The Bible says that in the end there would be perilous times. And as you take a look at the world that we live in today, economic inflation, gas prices are on the rise, COVID-19 is still looming in the darkness, and the possibilities of a World War III. What do you do in these moments? Aren't you glad to know that Jesus Christ has a word just for you? And I believe Cornerstone is that voice in this season, and that God has hewn out a rock of hope in this season of despair, which is why I want you to join us April 25th to the 29th for our Hope Arising fundraiser. It is going to be a powerful time of prophetic insight, revelation that is going to break you through every line of the devil's defense. We have great guests, Coy Barker, Joshua Giles, Randy Kay, and yours truly. I want you to mark your calendar, April 25th to the 29th at 8 p.m.
Watch Hope Arising on Cornerstone Television, Xfinity Channel 805, Verizon 505.
If a super flexible schedule, great benefits, paid time off, and a signing bonus sound good, consider NAMS Transportation. NAMS has provided safe transportation to Northern Allegheny County and Pittsburgh seniors for over 40 years. Van drivers start at $17 an hour, sedan drivers at $14 an hour, plus a $2,000 signing bonus for part-time drivers and a $4,000 signing bonus for full-time. Must be 25 or older, no CDL required. Call 412-406-8611 today.
It's a very common fear to have a fear of the dentist.
There's a reason patients love Dr. Megan Stock, voted Pittsburgh Trib's best of the best dentist in Northern Allegheny County for the second year in a row.
I feel particularly drawn to making sure that all patients are at ease. That extra gentle touch, the extra nudge to tell them it's okay, we'll get through this together.
Exceptional dentistry meets compassionate care. Stock Family Dentistry, Perry Highway in Wexford, at stockfamilydentistry.com.
Looking for a summer job? Well, you know about the Pirate Parrot. You know about Iceberg, the Pens mascot. I don't know about the Steelers if they currently have a mascot. But
Steely McBeam.
If you're looking to be a mascot, the Pittsburgh Zoo wants to hire you for the summer. Could you imagine? Represents the zoo mascot, by presenting a friendly and animated presence, I'm reading from the zoo's website, in our animal mascot costumes at events, both at the zoo and in the community. Must be prepared. Here's the description. Must be prepared to wear weighty, warm costumes in all weather conditions for extended periods without feeling claustrophobic.
All right. I feel like I need to bring something up, John.
Yep.
Now, the reason that and I'm a huge zoo supporter. I love the zoo.
Yep.
It's just a question I'm going to put out there. The reason that the Pirate Parrot is interesting at a ball game is because there aren't other parrots at the ball game. Right. And, the reason that the Iceberg thing is interesting at the hockey game is because it's, people there. Why do we need an animal mascot at the zoo surrounded by a plethora of animals?
I would say just for the fun of it all, don't you think? Just, it's like, oh, look, there's a little fun furry creature and everyone...
Well, then you can go see a real fun furry creature if you just walk, I know, right over there.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just, something kind of fun. Applicants should be...
You think I'm a fun killer?
Well, you're just bringing it up here. I don't know. 5'4" and 5'10", you could fit in this thing.
I could.
Yeah. Christy, looking for a part-time job at the zoo. Maybe you could do this as well, right? Let's see what else. You have to pass out... Oh, I see. This is why. This is why they're at the zoo. Because you will pass out promotional items and answer basic questions about the zoo. So you're not you're not like the parrot doesn't really speak.
Oh, so you have to talk?
So
you're a talking furry thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You probably spend half your day saying the restroom is over there.
Right, I'm sure.
Right?
Yes, we do have curly fries.
Right, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it'd just be very, very hot. Can you imagine being at the zoo, and I imagine how hot it would be?
The zoo is stinky in summer anyway. We know this.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us who have animals, this is what it is.
I like the zoo, though.
I love the zoo.
I mean, so...
That was my opening salvo.
What do you mean?
That I love the zoo.
Yeah. But it would be kind of rough to spend your whole summer there. Okay, so if you don't want to be at the zoo as a mascot... Is there
another option for me?
Yeah. How about driving a vintage ice cream truck? A company apparently is advertising on Craigslist seeking a part-time ice cream truck driver up to 30 hours per week. The position will drive a vintage ice cream truck in the South Hills, assist in booking parties and festivals, and more. Candidates must be at least 18 years of age, have a valid driver's license, pays $100 to $200 per day.
Hey. Now,
driving
wait a minute.
Vintage ice cream truck.
All right, let's back that up for a minute, because does that include a bell I'm ringing, or is it going to be like digital music? Which
if it's a vintage truck, right? I would imagine it'd be a bell.
The bell, I'm totally on board with. Whatever infernal thing, song-wise, that goes around our neighborhood makes me want to pull my hair out.
What do you mean? What's wrong? Is it like a little recording?
Yes, and it's horrible.
Right.
And it's about 12 seconds long. It keeps repeating.
My problem is I would be like eating all the ice cream sandwiches. At the end of the day, I'd have...
There'd be nothing to deliver to the children.
No. But two cool jobs that are out there.
Listen on your smart speaker at wordfm.com, the Word FM app, iHeart, TuneIn, and on Odyssey. In your car or at home, too, at 101.5 WORD-FM, Pittsburgh.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba says the visit by Secretary of State Blinken and Defense Secretary Austin to Kyiv was significant.
This is really was a political message, but it was also an opportunity to sit down at the table and have a meaningful conversation. It lasted for about 2 hours. We went through each and every detail of weapons, sanctions, financial, and other issues of utmost interest for both of us.
The Supreme Court tackling a dispute between public school officials and a former high school football coach who wanted to kneel and pray on the field after games. The New York Times reports that Twitter's board and Tesla CEO Elon Musk were negotiating over his bid to buy the social media platform. Musk said last week that he had lined up $46.5 billion to buy Twitter. This is SRN News.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You're not required to pay it all back because there are special programs now in effect that will significantly reduce the amount you will owe if you qualify. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. These programs, which the credit card companies like to keep secret, exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief hotline now. Call 800-786-2300. 800-786-2300. That's 800-786-2300.
Why Doing It Right Roofing, Siding, Remodeling? It's simple. It's in their name.
Doing It Right uses only top quality materials and employs only experienced installation and management people to install and oversee your project.
Family owned and operated for 38 years and with over 45 years of industry experience, you can be confident that your project will be installed the correct way.
Doing It Right does business honestly, taking no money down and collecting balance upon completion.
You will receive a lifetime labor warranty from Doing It Right.
Doing It Right does all work to manufacturers, National Roofing Contractors Association, and Vinyl Siding Institute guidelines and specifications for a complete and headache-free installation.
Doing It Right is an Owens Corning Platinum contractor and James Hardy preferred contractor.
Most importantly, they're affordable, offering great financing options and accepting all major credit cards.
Be sure to mention John and Kathy for a discount off your roofing, siding, and remodeling estimates.
Call 724-NEW-ROOF or find them at roofingcontractorpittsburgh.com.
Done right, call Doing It Right.
Hey, is this line secure?
Franco cybersecurity firm secured a contract, and that's all we're allowed to say.
We have a green light on hiring.
He needs web security professionals with a military background.
3 teams of 4, 24-hour rotations, but Protocol Zulu is on a need-to-know basis.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard, so you can stay organized and connected all the way to the hire. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Lynn Hayes Freeland, talk show host. Everyone deserves a chance to own a home. That's why Mortgages for Mothers is the way home. Free home buying workshop from Dollar Bank. Learn how to break the rent cycle, build savings, cut debt, and boost credit. Join us for the Way Home Workshop from Dollar Bank on Saturday, May 14th at 9 a.m. at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. Register today at dollar.bank/The Way Home. Dollar Bank. Let's get you there. Equal housing lender.
Cloudy and cooler tonight. A couple of heavy thunderstorms this evening, followed by a little rain late. Expect a low of 47. Mainly cloudy and cooler tomorrow. A brief but dramatic return to chillier weather. Will reach a high of only 57. Patchy clouds tomorrow night with a low of 36. Rather cloudy Wednesday and breezy with a shower in spots. Will reach a high Wednesday of 43. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Welcome to another edition of The Ride Home with John and Kathy, live from the Salem-Pittsburgh studios. And now here are your hosts, John Hall and Kathy Emmons.
Well, good afternoon. Greetings. Thanks for being with us here today, the Monday edition. Hope that your week is off to a fabulous start. an amazing Monday to you. You go, well, that was an incredible Monday. It was like the best Monday of my life. How could that even be?
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about what you did today, John, your Monday. I mean, it's beautiful weather. We're happy to have spring here, even though it's going to go down by 40 degrees in the next 48 hours, maybe. You did something specific today, though, that I'm sure many people in our listening audience have struggled with.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much today. It was actually Saturday.
Was when the horror started.
Today was just the sort of like the repercussions of it. Today was actually the conclusion, the very happy conclusion. I was doing laundry on Saturday afternoon, as I'm wont to do, right? I think most of us. So I went down to the basement to transfer from the washing machine to the dryer. And as soon as I opened up the basement door, I was like, whoa! Oh, Johnny, what's going on here? Because clearly there was a smell in the air, and it wasn't the smell of hyacinth. I'll tell you that. It wasn't springtime. What I discovered quickly is that my sewer had backed up into my basement. Delicious. Appetizing, my friends. Holy moly. I mean,
so you immediately had to spring into action because you can't obviously just let that sit
no.
any length of time.
Yeah, I had to I had to work it out. So, of course, all hands on deck. And I don't want to go into details there, but I cleaned up the area, so to speak. From A1 sewer cleaning specialist Mel and Curtis. So they came to the rescue today, first thing in the morning, and boom, they pushed out 186 feet of cable into my sewer line, and before you knew it, I was up and running. So thank goodness for small favors. I mean, it was the best $300 I ever spent, I'll tell you that. A1 sewer.
Listen,
Mel and Curtis.
I've suffered the same fate as you and turned to the guys at A1. They've just done a really terrific job. And so us Zooming from home, for those of you who'd like to watch the show, you can do that right now. You can go to the Word Pittsburgh on YouTube and see us both in our rooms at home because my daughter still has COVID. You were dealing with the sewage backup.
Right.
And so this was the end result.
Well, people have been saying for years, this show's in the gutter, and there's proof of it right today. I mean, clearly it is, right? It was the COVID Zoom sewer edition of The Ride Home, and I guarantee you no other show in the city is doing anything like that. Big time here, big time radio.
So news comes today, John, in a citywide context that Pittsburgh hospital workers are by absolute droves, trying to leave the profession. Give us some details on this.
Okay, this comes from Jeffrey Shook, who is a Pitt Associate Professor, author of something called the Pittsburgh Hospital Workers Survey. And the survey, just completed, had 2,253 participants, which represented hospital workers, excluding doctors who had worked at one or more of the 11 Pittsburgh hospitals in 2021. All right? He said that of this 2,253 participants, more than 93% of those who were polled said that they were thinking of leaving the hospital profession.
Oh my gosh, 93! I can't believe that's a shocking number.
93%. Jeffrey Shook says, quote, a lot of people are really thinking about leaving their jobs, but they are also really committed to their patients, and they're saying that they are staying because of their patients. 9 out of 10 workers reported their job was meaningful and had moderate to high compassion satisfaction, a term that indicates the satisfaction people experience when they help others through their work, according to the report. So, I don't know. Hopefully the compassion overrides the despair and the general sort of, I'm just overwhelmed.
Or we're all in trouble.
Yeah, we are all in trouble. Can you imagine? 93%.
We should keep that number in mind the next time we go to a hospital, we go to the doctor's office, the dentist's office, whatever it is. Just keep in mind how fragile people are. I think I told you, John, I was scheduling a routine test via phone over the last month, and I called in, tried to schedule the test, and they said, well, we're going to have to call you back. Okay. Right. Yep. So then several days, nobody called me back. So then I called the second time, and I said, hey, I'm calling again. Okay. Okay. We're going to have to call you back. So the third time I called in, no, it was the fourth time I called in, and I said, hey, listen, this is number 4. I have called multiple times. I want to know what the deal is, why you are trying to not schedule this test, right? I figured it was something about my insurance or lack of or something about whatever. Anyway, the woman started weeping.
Weeping? Crying on the phone to you?
Crying on the phone. And she's going on and on about how they only have 3 people scheduling and they have hundreds and hundreds of people calling every day. They can't possibly get through their call log. They don't have enough people to transfer them to. They don't have the right software that's going to. Anyway, it was so she probably just did like verbal explosion about her story for, I want to say, 3 solid minutes.
What?
I just sat there and listened to her. And then there was this pause and she said, I can't believe I just told you all that. And I said, listen, that is fine. You obviously need somebody to be able to vent to, and I'm happy to be that person. And I'm sorry if I came on too strong. She said, you didn't come on too strong. When you call to set up a test, you should be able to set up a test. You shouldn't have to call back 4 times. But anyway, it was just a real eye-opener to me about the kinds of environments people are working in when it comes to healthcare right now.
Gosh, that poor
and that's
thing.
not somebody who's working in the ER. That's someone who's trying to schedule routine testing.
Right. Did you say that you were going to keep it between you and her and 50,000 watts?
I didn't give her name.
No, you did not.
And I didn't say what I was calling, what organization
I think it's probably a not unusual story, but thank you for your compassion and your wherewithal to know that something was totally amiss, right?
Listen,
that person availed themselves of that.
That woman really needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
And my need to schedule a routine test was not as important as her need to be able to just have somebody to hear what she was saying.
Yeah, that's really true. All right. Well, you're right. I mean, next time you go to the hospital, hope you don't have to go anytime soon, of course, but you know that people are really in turmoil there because the system is just overloaded. Okay, shall we take a quick break?
Yeah, when we come back, Ryan Burge will be with us from Eastern Illinois University. How America's youth lost its religion in the 1990s. He says we're living in the aftermath of one of the most dramatic democratic shifts in American history. Much more coming up. Right home.
101.5 WORD.
Turning Point with David Jeremiah.
When you stand before the judgment seat of Christ, it's not about whether you're going to get in heaven or not. You'll already be there. When you stand before the judgment seat of Christ, it will be about how have I lived my life as a believer? What kind of a steward have I been for the gifts that God has entrusted to me?
Dr. David Jeremiah continues his series, Signs, next time on Turning Point.
This evening at 7:30 on 101.5 WORD.
Windows are us. You've tried the rest, now try the best.
When it's time to replace your roof, siding, gutters, and downspouts, entry doors, and of course windows, you can count on Windows R Us, the area's premier exterior replacement company. This is John Steigerwald. With over 50 years experience in the home remodeling industry, Windows R Us offers repair and replacement for all your exterior home projects. Why pay double with some other companies? Windows R Us will always give you the best price on the best in-class products, backed by the best warranties in the industry, all with zero sales pressure. And speaking of zero, right now get zero interest financing for 12 months and no processing fee with prices set to increase on all exterior products. Lock in your quote today. Schedule a free estimate and inspection today at WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. You've tried the rest, now try the best. WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com.
Windows are us. You've tried the rest, now try the best.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. It's really frustrating to deal with out-of-pocket medical expenses, watching your hard-earned dollars just flying out the window. Well, here's something that can really help, and it's worth taking a minute to look into. Medi-Share has a new option called Medi-Share 65 Plus. Medi-Share is a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it really is a community. People encourage and pray for each other. And Medi-Share 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B that fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. You can lock in one low monthly price for up to 10 years. It's great for peace of mind. You can use your Medicare-approved doctor and get prescription savings, dental and vision savings. Very worth looking into, and it's so easy to find out why people rave about the customer service at Medi-Share. They're great to talk to on the phone. Here's the number. Call 833-SHARE-55. That's 833-SHARE-55. 833-SHARE-55.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents Doug.
Check it out, Limu, a roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look, an emu wearing sunglasses.
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I believe it may have been the late 1980s that REM famously decried that they themselves were losing their religion. You remember the song, Kath?
Love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song, REM.
That's me in the corner.
Automatic for the People, I believe,
That's me
was
in
the
the
CD.
spotlight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, the youth of that time took them up with the news of losing their religion. Ryan Burge is with us. He's a fascinating guy who's always looking at numbers and charts and graphs. And Ryan, you've got bad news about 90s youth. They themselves did lose their religion in earnest.
They did. I mean, I think the 1990s were probably the most important decade, at least in my life, when it comes to American religion. The share of young people who said they were Christian dropped dramatically between 1991 and 1998, dropped 14 points in 7 years. And the share of 18 to 35-year-olds said they had no religious affiliation jumped 12 points during that same time period, 1991 and 1998. I think we're actually living sort of in the residue of what happened during that 7-year stretch in the 90s.
Okay, so let's think back to what happened in the 90s. I mean, we had, the impeachment crisis with Bill Clinton. Yeah. I remember that. Other than that, take me back and help us to trace the source of where the decline started.
Yeah. So in 1991, the USSR crumbled. And the Soviet fell apart, and the Eastern Bloc kind of broke away. And
sure.
We were locked in a Cold War for 40 years. And that war, by the way, was pitched in very religious tones. For people like me who are a bit younger, we didn't grow up during this time, but it was very much seen as a war between godless atheist communists, in Russia, and then us capitalist, virtuous Christians in the West. And so to be an atheist in that period was to be a communist. And so when you get rid of that whole ethos, now the stigma against being an atheist sort of goes away, or at least lessens a bit. So I think a lot of Americans, In God We Trust actually was putting the money in the 1950s, and pledging allegiance under God happened in the 1950s as well. It's sort of a way to inoculate American youth against, godless communism. And when that threat's gone, a lot of people go, well, what are we rebelling against now? What are we pushing against now? And when the Soviet fell, a lot of Americans said, you know what? I don't really have a religion, and that doesn't make me a communist. It just makes me a person. And so I think that is one of those things that led to a snowball effect where more people said they were okay with it, and more people said they were okay with it. And we sort of are living, in the outcome, the residue of what happened with communism falling. But that's not it. I mean, that's not the only thing, right? Because nothing's the only thing. Yeah. We also have to think about what happened in the 1990s when it comes to politics. Now we think that, polarization is the norm, but in the late 1980s, polarization was very normal. Or not nearly as bad as it was now. Tip O'Neill, who was the Democratic Speaker of the House, and Ronald Reagan were good friends. Mm-hmm. And they were Republicans, Democrats. They hung out. They played golf. They were good friends. And now Republicans and Democrats don't even look at each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, they think each other's evil. And that really kicked off in 1994, I think, with Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. Newt Gingrich rose to power by basically being a bomb thrower. He was not an appeaser. He was not a cross the aisle kind of guy. He was the guy who came out and said the Democrats are evil. They're going to ruin this country. If you elect them, we're going to be in a very bad place. And then in kind, the Democrats reciprocated against the Republicans. And we sort of, have this, I think we're living polarization wise in what happened in 1994. We can blame a lot of that on Newt Gingrich, I believe.
And then, of course, that led to 98 when the impeachment crisis started.
That's right. But by then, the religious transition, see, a lot of people, when I post this graph, they go, oh, it's the internet. Like they always point to the internet as being one of the things that really kicked that off. But if you look at the data, most people did not have internet in their homes until late 1990s. And this is 1991 and 1998. So I don't think it started these things, but I think it continued what was already happening. With the snowball started rolling down the hill in 1991, 1992, and it picked up speed through the 90s. And I think it was accelerated by the internet. And I think the impeachment crisis, well, that's the other thing. Evangelicals hit their peak in America numerically in 1993 when they were 30% of the population. Right.
Interesting.
So you think of this confluence of events, 91, right, with the Soviet Union falling, 93 with evangelicals reaching their peak, the religious right reaching its peak, and then 94 with Newt Gingrich and the contract with America, and the Republicans taking back the House for the first time since FDR. all these things happen, boom, boom, boom. And for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, not just in the physical world, but also in the social world. And evangelicals being so large and so vocal and so right wing, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of moderates and maybe leftist center folks who said, if that's what religion is, I don't want anything to do with that. And now with the atheist stigma going away, I think all the things kind of together got us to where we are today.
Right. And where we are today, certainly not a good place, right? So 1991, the trend started in 91, that's more than 30 years ago. If you were born in 91 or if you were a teenager, you're having kids of your own. Odds are, right, if you're one of those people, you're not going to church, you're not connected, you're not bringing your family along as well. So the snowball has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, we know that people who are raised without faith are more likely to stay without faith as adults today than at any point in the last 40 years. Used to be, if you were raised with no religion, there was a 2/3 chance that you would pick up religion as an adult.
Really?
Now it's only a 1/3 chance you pick up religion as adult. So the retention rate amongst the nuns is growing. So if your parents were nuns, the likelihood of you being a nun as an adult is higher than it's ever been. And so now, those small changes, like we're talking about, that's Generation X, 18 to 35-year-olds in the 1990s. Those are the ones whose kids are now 20, 25, 30 years old, and now they're raising kids. So Gen X are grandparents, and those grandchildren are being raised without religion because of what happened in the early 1990s. So these little shifts in society and culture 20, 30, 40 years ago can send ripples in throughout our social, economic sphere for 50 years. Wow. And I think what we're seeing now is these are grandchildren of that moment. Now, the question for me is, as a social scientist, will there be a reaction against the reaction, right? When you're a kid, the coolest thing to do is rebel against your parents. And if your parents are, a fundamentalist Baptist, the coolest thing to do is not be that. But imagine you grow up third-generation atheist. Maybe the coolest, most rebellious thing you can do is become a Christian. So I do wonder if there's going to be a backlash against the backlash. We haven't seen it yet in the data, but I would not be surprised at all in 10 or 15 years when we talked about the next generation being more religious than the prior generation.
Fascinating.
Dr. Ryan Burge with us. We're talking about how America's youth lost its religion in the 1990s. You can follow Ryan on Zoom. Not on Zoom. No, I mean, you could follow him on Zoom, but I would suggest following him on Twitter at Ryan Burge, Burge.
All right. So that's really interesting, Ryan, to think that, the backlash against atheism is that more people are in the pews. But, of course, that's going to take a long way for that to happen. Yeah. I mean, what does all this say to you? I mean, what you just said about, people think, well, it was just the Internet. It wasn't the Internet. These seeds were planted a heck of a long time ago.
Yeah, I think the problem with being a social scientist is we're trained to always say everything's complicated, and the world we live in says nothing. It's like two simple tricks to know how to do this, or what's the one hack you don't know. But when it comes to social science, right, it's never one thing. It's always a confluence of things working together. And the problem with social science, too, is, and Søren Kierkegaard said, we have to live life forwards, but it only makes sense in reverse. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem is we cannot, when we're in the moment, we don't understand what the moment means. And oftentimes we don't understand what the moment means for 20 or 30 or 40 years down the line. And I'm telling you, people who grew up in the 1990s did not know what that moment meant. We're just now 30 years down the line making sense of what that meant. And you know what that means for us 30 years from now, people are going to look back on this moment and go, what did Donald Trump mean? What did the rise of social media mean, right? What did COVID-19 mean for the church and for society and for politics and religion and all those things? We can only make sense of things looking back, over a long time horizon. That's tough, if we're living in right now, because we want to make sense of today. Right. But unfortunately, it's complicated. There's thousands of things going on, and what sticks around and what goes away, we'll not know for 10 or 15. Like, what is Donald Trump's legacy? Right now, it's impossible to know because he's only been out of office less than 2 years. We need 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah. What's the legacy of American religion? We don't know. We're still living in it right now.
Yeah. It's not history yet, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's still current.
Yes.
So when I think back, you brought it the fall of the Berlin Wall, the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. And, I would never have until you kind of drew it together for us have considered that would have had an impact on American atheism. But I guess I can see that. It really was very much a conflict of good versus evil, and the godless society, the godless Marxist society, was filled with all sorts of suffering, persecution, whether that's economic or personal or religious or whatever it was. And so there really was a good versus evil. And for sure, on the domestic front, when it came time for the Clinton impeachment, man, that was good versus evil for a lot of Christians.
Well, think about, so I was born in 82, right? So I came of age in the 1990s, really kind of moved into adulthood, made sense of everything. It's really the first time any generation, at least that's alive today, America had no enemy. Between like 1991 and 2001, we really did not have an enemy in the world. For our grandparents, they obviously had the Nazis, and then we had the Soviet and communists for a long, long time. And then when the Soviet declined, we didn't, for 10 years and nothing. Then we had, radical Islam was our enemy for the next 10, 15 years. And now the question is, who is our enemy after that? America always has to do this thing where we have to find someone we don't like, right? And kind of push against them. Whether, we might look back and go, maybe it's Putin. Maybe it's China. Maybe it's China and Putin right now, right? I think it's a little bit of both all at the same time. But if you think of the 1990s, we didn't have that thing we were pushing against. And I think that's when domestically we said, well, we got to find an enemy within because we can't find an enemy without. Right? We can't outside our borders. There's no common enemy for us. And so now we should fire our guns at Republicans against Democrats, Democrats versus Republicans. They're the enemy. And I think you're right, Kathy. The Clinton impeachment was when all that stuff said, okay, the gloves are off now. We're going to use every tool at our disposal to try to destroy the other party for whatever reason, real or imagined. And I think that's really where the culture war kind of took a backseat to just rank partisanship. And now I think the culture war is actually not nearly as important as Republicans don't like Democrats. Democrats don't like Republicans. And it's only getting worse now because now we have to find a common enemy. And what we do, and this is what we did with the Soviet, by the way, we made the worst version of them in our heads and then hated that version. Right. There was this great quote. I could not find it for the book, but I remember reading it. There was this great quote. A Russian diplomat came to the United States in 1989. He talked to the press outside the United Nations building. He said, "Why are you here?" He goes, "To prove to Americans we're not the enemy." That's what he said. To prove to Americans we're not the enemy. And that's the problem is if we don't know someone from the other side, we always assume the worst version of them, right? And the average Russian didn't give a rip about the average American in 1985. They just wanted to eat and farm and live a good life, just like we did. But instead, we had to create a villain on the other side, and we've done it inside America now. Now, Democrats have a completely distorted view of what Republicans believe, and Republicans have a completely distorted view of what Democrats believe, and it's easy to hate that distorted view. It's a lot harder to hate someone when you sit next to them on a pew on Sunday or work with them on Tuesday, right? Because now they're real people. They're your neighbors. They're your friends, the people you like. That's why I talk about my new book, by the way, Plug, 20 Myths About Religion and Politics in America. We cannot make worse versions of the other side. We need to look empirically at what's true in the world, and we realize we're a lot more similar than we are different, especially when it comes to religion.
Yeah, especially when it comes to religion. And the cool thing is, I mean, in your new work, you've got the data to back this up, don't you?
I'm trying to make a point that empiricism is the way for us to get around all this stuff. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but the data does not lie. The data tells truth. And whatever you do with that is up to you. But it's my job as an empirical social science to say, here's what the survey data says. And I'll give you a data point to end with today. Right now, over the last 5 years, something dramatic happened in American life, which is the number of Americans who never attend church now exceeds the number of Americans who attend church every week. Wow. It's the first time it's happened somewhere between 2016 and 2017. And now more Americans never go to church than go to church every week. Think about what that means for the future of American society, American religion, American culture. We have big changes on the horizon.
Wow.
All right, check out Ryan's work. You can find wherever you buy your books, 20 Myths About Religion and Politics in America. Also, you can check out The Nuns, where they came from, who they are, and where they're going. Ryan, how are things with you? How are things in Illinois?
Oh, this is the last week of the semester. I'm just trying to survive. No thriving, just surviving this week.
Okay. All right. Next time we talk to you, we'll expect a little bit of thriving.
Maybe just a peak. A 10% thriving would be all I can handle right now.
Very nice. Batten down the hatches. Hold tight for this week, Ryan. Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
We'll take a quick break. When we do come back, our daily feature, Does This Make Sense? That's next year on The Ride Home. Stay with us. We're Pittsburgh's Christian Talk.
I'm about to compare a pepper shaker to a cash-out refinance. Hang with me. You know when you're at a restaurant and they ask, would you like some fresh ground pepper? And then they crank that giant tube, but almost nothing comes out? For me, only a certain amount of time is socially acceptable to wait. I know that getting that pepper out might make my life better, but it just seems too impossible. And that's what we hear people say about the cash-out refinance. People realize that the value of their home has gone up like hot pepper the last few years, leaving all this extra money sitting inside their home. But is it too hard to get out? It's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage. If you're interested in cashing out the extra pepper in your home, we're good at doing all the work while you just sit back and relax. And often, your mortgage payment and years in the loan will stay the same. If you'd like to hear about your options,
we are United Faith Mortgage.
United Faith Mortgage is a DBA of United Mortgage Corp. 25 Melville Park Road, Melville, New York. Licensed mortgage banker. For all licensing information, go to nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Corporate NMLS number 1330. Equal housing lender. Licensed in Alaska, Hawaii, Georgia, North Dakota, South Dakota, or Utah.
I think we've all been sold the bill of online school. That, you can do it online just as easily as you can do it in person.
Same thing.
Right, it's the same thing.
Same quality.
You can access the same teacher, you can access the same experience. It's really fine. We all know that's not the case.
Right.
There's a huge difference being in person in a room with other individuals and doing something digitally. So during the COVID pandemic, I look at my own kids and I think of the things that they missed out on. And I'm not just talking about classes. I'm saying, okay, I had one child who was an athlete who, the entire NCAA sports schedule got upended. I have another child who's involved in music and all those music performances got completely cut. I'm happy to tell you that over the last 3-4 months, I just feel like we're coming up, out of this horrible haze we've been in. I've been able to see sporting events and I've been able to go to live concerts. And it just reinforces in my mind how important those extracurriculars are when you're talking about choosing a school for your child.
Because community matters. So if you're thinking about next semester, next year, look at Grove City College, because face-to-face, in-person, Christian men and women gathering together with an education, with a strong faith perspective, there's nothing like Grove City. Look online, gcc.edu. That's Grove City College, in person.
You could win $5,000 and bless an organization with $5,000 in your name when you enter the Kindness Challenge.
Share your kindness with others. Go to wordfm.com to enter. That's wordfm.com.
Ask Alexa to play the word Pittsburgh to hear us there. We're on your Google speaker, too. Plus iHeart, TuneIn, and on Odyssey. 101.5 WORD-FM, Pittsburgh.
Cloudy and cooler tonight. A couple of heavy thunderstorms this evening, followed by a little rain late. Expect a low of 47. Mainly cloudy and cooler tomorrow. A brief but dramatic return to chillier weather. Will reach a high of only 57. Patchy clouds tomorrow night with a low of 36. Rather cloudy Wednesday and breezy with a shower in spots. Will reach a high Wednesday of 43. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Does this make sense?
Does what make sense?
Canned peas, John.
Canned peas?
Canned peas.
To be honest, I'm not a fan of canned peas or frozen peas or fresh peas. I'm just
peas.
not. No, I really don't. No, it's not something I go, hey, I wish I had some peas. Or when I see peas, I go, boy, I got a taste for peas. So canned peas or frozen peas, none of them make sense to me.
Wow, John.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement you've made there.
Yeah.
I could eat peas every day.
What? Really?
I could eat peas every day. I love them so much. I think their shape is amusing. I think their color is pleasing.
Really?
And I think the taste, always delivers, especially when it comes to the canned variety. Now, here's the thing. For anyone concerned about nutrition, you shouldn't be looking at canned peas.
They're lacking nutrition?
Well, the sodium content is out of control.
Right.
I mean, if you're comparing frozen peas or fresh peas versus canned, no comparison. You should always go frozen or fresh.
Is that a nostalgia food for you?
John, it's just so stinking delicious.
Really?
The canned pea. It's so flavorful. The peas are big. There's a lot to chew on. I could eat them right now. I could eat them cold. That's how I feel.
Cold canned peas. That doesn't make
anyway, I'm saying canned peas. Yes, indeed, they do make sense.
Really? All right. Does this make sense? Made up corporate names. Like, remember like the first corporate name, Aramark. The heck is Aramark?
Oh, right.
Synax.
Yeah.
What the heck is Synax? What does that mean? You see these names all the time. You know, they like smush things together. Most often it sounds either ridiculous or evil. It doesn't have any sort of emotional appeal to me, right? I mean, it's not like, even like a throwback, like Smuckers. What is a Smuckers? What's that all about?
Well, isn't that somebody's last name?
Well, they say with a name like Smuckers, it has to be good. I don't think so.
Well,
I don't get that. Why does it have to be good with a name like Smuckers?
Mrs. Smuckers thought it was a fine name.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, what about like Boeing? Like they make airplanes. Is that bad?
I don't know. Hey, I'm running down. I'm going to go to Aramark. You want something to eat? No, unless I want something like an evil-sounding weird name.
Right. So you feel like we should. So you're saying that they do or no? You don't think they do make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense. No.
Well, I'm solidly behind Heinz. I think Boeing's good.
Well, Heinz, that was a guy. Doesn't make sense to me.
101.5 WORD.
Coming up next time on Adventures in Odyssey. Laugh, all of you, laugh. Whit helps Jack and Lucy learn an important lesson about faith through the incredible story of a man named Noah.
You've got to turn away from your wickedness.
Yada, yada, yada. You've been saying this for 100 years, Noah.
Batten down the hatches.
I'm talking a lot of water here.
And prepare to set sail on the next Adventure in Odyssey.
Tonight at 8 on 101.5 Word FM, WORD.
Windows are us. You've tried the rest, now try the best. Your premier exterior replacement company. Window siding, roofing, and doors. No compromise on quality, transforming homes and so much more. Windows are us. Pittsburgh.com. Windows are us. You've tried the rest, now try the best.
Why doing it right? Roofing, siding, remodeling? It's simple. It's in their name.
Doing it right uses only top quality materials and employs only experienced installation and management people to install and oversee your project.
Family owned and operated for 38 years, and with over 45 years of industry experience, you can be confident that your project will be installed the correct way.
Doing it right does business honestly, taking no money down and collecting balance upon completion.
You'll receive a lifetime labor warranty from Doing It Right.
Doing it right does all work to manufacturers, National Roofing Contractors Association, and Vinyl Siding Institute guidelines and specifications for a complete and headache-free installation.
Doing It Right is an Owens Corning Platinum contractor and James Hardy preferred contractor.
Most importantly, they're affordable, offering great financing options and accepting all major credit cards.
Be sure to mention John and Kathy for a discount off your roofing, siding, and remodeling estimates.
Call 724-NEW-ROOF or find them at roofingcontractorpittsburgh.com.
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
Every summer, Pine Valley Camp changes lives, not just for the more than 100 underserved kids who attend each week, but for the many high school and college-age volunteers and staff who work with them as lifeguards, cooks, camp counselors, and more. If you're 16 to 25, love working with kids and helping to foster a fun, safe Christian family environment, apply now at pinevalleycamp.org. Pine Valley Camp, rebuilding broken lives through Jesus Christ in Beaver County. Camp opens mid-June.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've consistently talked about over the years are various forms of entertainment. John is the movie guy, right? So he loves film. He and his wife spent their first date at a double feature. They both love. I have just never been particularly into movies. I mean, I like them okay. But when the film is over, I'm wishing that there was more. Like there would be more character development, or I would find out more about the story or something. And so I always preferred TV, and especially now, you know, the long form TV is so outstanding right now that I never want to watch a movie, because there's always a new show that has, you know, 8 parts to it, or maybe it has 2 seasons or something. And I just I think it has to do with how many book series I read when I was a kid. And there was nothing I liked more than being in, like, I'd be halfway through book 1 of a series and I would be loving it. And I would think to myself, there's a book 2 and a book 3. It's like this incredible sense of satisfaction. Like, I'm going to be in this world, this fictional world, for a long time, and I like it. I get that same feeling when I find a new show that I am really into. And I bring all this up to say that John being the film guy, me being the TV guy, Christy, you lean more towards TV like me, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you not? Why is it that you made that choice, you think?
I can't tell you. I'm not really sure. It just happened.
Okay. Yeah, well, you're a curious person, and you like a complicated story.
Yes,
right?
I do. I love them.
And it's really fun to see that kind of unfold. As you know, Christy and I've watched Severance together, which is on Apple, and it's just one of those things that it's like a constant mystery as it goes on, and it goes on for, you know, 9 whole episodes. When Lent happened, Ash Wednesday, perhaps it was the day before Fat Tuesday, when John, you looked at me in the studio and you said, I think I need to give up TV for Lent. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, I think I need to give up TV. So you did. You followed through on it, John.
Yeah.
And what was the experience like for you? At first, was it hard?
It wasn't really hard, because I had been thinking about this a lot and had fallen into somewhat of a rut. Right, I think, which is a pretty common thing. We go to work, we come home, we have dinner, we sit down in front of the screen, whatever that is, you know, maybe have some conversation and then go to bed. And it just felt hollow to me. I couldn't believe I was doing this. And you know what? My relationship with my wife was was as good as it could be. And I think just because we got lazy, and I thought, oh, this is what it's going to be like for the next, this is
like
it.
30 years.
Exactly. I could just imagine myself, you know, I don't want to die with my hand on the remote. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't. And I felt like, oh no, that's happening to me, that I've just become a source of streaming. So I had to put an end to it. And so really, it wasn't difficult at all. And I'm not trying to brag or anything here. It was a necessary readjustment of my priorities to step away and look at things a little bit differently. And so
what did you do instead?
Throughout the entirety of Lent, we would come home. Generally, of course, you know, we always made dinner together. Now, we're sort of pseudo-empty nesters. Our kids are both away in college. They're coming back next week, which is going to change everything. It's going to change everything again. I love this era that we're in right now. So we're not running around crazy. My wife's not having to, you know, sort of be the, you know, the chef and the, you know, everything involved with food. Like last night, we're like 7 o'clock. What do you want to eat? I don't know. Do you really want to eat something? Yeah. How about we have like a little salad and you want to do a grilled cheese sandwich? Yes. I mean, couldn't have been any easier. The whole salad, it took us 15 minutes to make dinner. We were good to go. There's something to be said about, because it's too easy right now. We live in this age where, you know, we're streaming everything imaginable. And to be fair, I think this is probably true. Most of what we're streaming is very tense and very dark.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Most of the stuff that's being put out since COVID began is that.
Very tense and very dark.
Which
Do
is why
you think our lives
themselves are great and small, by the way?
Right. But the nature of our lives right now is very tense and very dark. So why am I inviting more and more layers of that into my life? More than anything, I just kind of want to have some silence or some music or something that's calm and easy at the end of the day, not more ramping it up. Now, okay, I'll say this. The benefits of this, way better relationship. Our communication, much better as a couple. My tension level has gone down tremendously so. The big thing is I'm sleeping like a baby. I mean, I'm just rocking it. It's nothing for... We go to bed now at the latest 10 o'clock.
What?
I'm going to bed.
10 o'clock? I'm just getting started.
I'm asleep most nights by 10:30, and I'm sleeping through most nights. I'm not even getting up once or twice. I'm sleeping through until 7, sometimes 8, or maybe later.
What?
That's how it is. I'm just saying.
All right, so now we're post-Easter, living in the season of Eastertide. Lent is in the past. How have you changed?
Okay, so, hey, Easter, I can watch something. We watched, there's a good series on, but of course, it's tense and it's dark. It's called Outer Range. It's on Prime. Josh Brolin. And it's set in, I believe, Wyoming. It's modern day.
So it's like Yellowstone, but it's
modern day, and it's about a family. And of course, what's it about? Murder. Right? And some mystery. There's a mystery. There's a, I'm not giving away. This is no spoiler alert. You'll see this in the first. There's a gigantic hole somewhere on the ranch. And things happen around the gigantic hole and the family. So it's kind of like Dallas meets Lost.
Christy, we might have to watch this.
I like it. It's a good, and I love Josh Brolin. Do you know Josh Brolin?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, he's a fabulous actor. Very, very interesting guy. But again, last night we didn't watch anything. Yesterday I watched maybe 15 minutes of baseball. And that was enough.
And you saw enough to see that Bednar is a total boss.
Oh, that's...
Isn't he great?
I love baseball. And, of course, the Pens are going to start their playoffs here. Let's hope they go deep into the playoffs. So, I mean, sports to me are like, the panacea for anything that's dark and ugly. Of course, you could say that about the Pirates, but, that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's sum it up then. Your experience giving up TV, is it going to be something that's lasting? What are the conclusions that you've drawn?
I don't know if it's going to be lasting, but it has been, the experience of stepping away has been far more positive, and it's been a heck of a lot easier than I first imagined. I thought it was going to be a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It wasn't a sacrifice. It was a massive blessing to me. It was an ease. It was as if I was taking off something that was inhibiting my movement, whether it was my spiritual movement, my psychological movement. It was a freeing experience. So I think, why would I want to go back into that thing again? Why do I want to invite more chaos, more, angst, more darkness into my life when I don't need that? What I'd like to have more is peace. And I think I found that in giving up television over Lent.
All right. It's a good story, John.
I don't know. It's not like, it's not like some grand spiritual quest that I went on.
No, but it's one person's story of just making a change.
Right.
I'm proud of you for doing it.
Thank you.
Especially because Christy and I are nuts and we're always talking about shows and we have to leave the room when you come in.
Well, yeah, of course. I walked in the room the other day and you were like, we have to leave. Like you ran away from me. And I was like, am I getting like the old man smell?
Because we're hoping you watch the show and we can't give even one iota of it away because the discovery is the beauty.
Severance.
Yes.
I have watched 2 episodes of it.
You've watched 2 episodes and then you stopped? How did you stop?
Because it's weirdly confusing.
You have to keep going.
What? I go to work and I forget. Then I come back home and I forget. I mean,
it gets so much better. It's like The Office. You have to watch more than the first season. So you have to watch more than the first 2 episodes.
Here's a problem.
So excellent.
See, look, the problem with streaming is And the beauty of movies is you're working within a time frame of 90 minutes or maximum 120 minutes. It forces the writers to be concise. The ideas are very, very compact. 9 episodes, 18 episodes. There's all this room, all this excess. It's bad storytelling.
No, I don't
Yes,
think
it is. It's bad storytelling.
I don't think there's any. Christy, weigh in on this with the last minute before we go to break. I don't feel like there's anything extra in Severance. Of all the shows I've watched, maybe ever, to me, there's everything matters in it.
Really?
Absolutely everything.
Yeah, it is. It is really tight. Ben Stiller has just done such a terrific job. There's so much that speaks to our current time. I mean, it's just highly recommend it.
All right.
But John, you stay with listening to your music and reading your books, because I salute you as well. Because that does make sense.
It does make sense.
It does make sense. All right, we're going to step away. When we come back, sounds like my husband is on the cutting edge, because shaved heads have people buzzing.
Before Bamboo HR, I feel like crying just thinking about it.
We were still handling everything via paper, and we literally had paper stacked.
It was all in spreadsheets and like folders.
From the moment I started using it, I felt calmer.
As soon as we started using the Bamboo onboarding checklist, I mean, it was extremely easy.
Head count, turnover, years of service. There's just so many different reports that I use at different points in time.
I'm totally set free to focus on the people, to focus on development, to focus on team dynamics.
It's freeing me up to do more of the stuff that actually matters in HR, which is interacting with people, learning from them, and then building stuff for them.
Everything is in this one place. I can't even imagine what it would be like without Bamboo HR.
We're Bamboo HR, and we'd love to set you free to do great work. Come try our award-winning all-in-one HR software for free with no strings attached. Visit bamboohr.com/HR for this free trial offer. That's bamboohr.com/HR.
Windows are us. You tried the rest, now try the best. Your premier exterior replacement company. Windows, siding, roofing, and doors. No compromise on quality, transforming homes and so much more. Windows are us. Pittsburgh.com. Windows are us. You tried the rest, now try the best.
Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, offering generous financial aid, prepares students for ministry with Master of Divinity, Master of Arts, Doctor of Ministry, and certificate programs designed for students called as leaders of the church and our neighborhoods. Apply now for fall. Visit pts.edu.
The Bible says that in the end there would be perilous times. And as you take a look at the world that we live in today, economic inflation, gas prices are on the rise, COVID-19 is still looming in the darkness, and the possibilities of a World War III. What do you do in these moments? Aren't you glad to know that Jesus Christ has a word just for you? And I believe Cornerstone is that voice in this season, and that God has hewn out a rock of hope in this season of despair, which is why I want you to join us April 25th to the 29th for our Hope Arising fundraiser. It is going to be a powerful time of prophetic insight, revelation that is going to break you through every line of the devil's defense. We have great guests, Coy Barker, Joshua Giles, Randy Kay, and yours truly. I want you to mark your calendar, April 25th to the 29th at 8 p.m.
Watch Hope Arising on Cornerstone Television. Xfinity Channel 805, Verizon 505.
April is National Donate Life Month. The need for organ donors is staggering. You can make a difference in the lives of others through faith and by signing up as an organ donor. Learn more and sign up at organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
We are well removed from the Oscars with the slap and the all that. I mean, what a crazy mess that was. But anyway, so Jada Pinkett Smith with her shaved head apparently was the fulcrum that put all this in place. Now, to be honest, when I'm watching the Oscars and I saw Jada Pinkett Smith, who I did not know, I don't know who she was, But I saw her with Will Smith. I assumed that, that was Will Smith's wife. And the weird thing was, when Will Smith was on the red carpet, they didn't say, "Hey, Will," and "Hey, Jada." They just talked to Will, like as though Jada Pinkett Smith was like a purse, an accessory or something. It was a very weird. My wife and I both commented on that. Anyway, you saw Jada Pinkett Smith on the red carpet, and my first thought was, what a beautiful looking woman. And it was really interesting because of her shaved head. Now, occasionally you do see women with shaved heads. What's the Irish singer?
Sinead O'Connor.
Sinead O'Connor with the shaved head, right? I mean, that was 30 years ago. So there's a big thing now, which is kind of like copycat fashion, where young women are saying, yeah, I saw that shaved head, and I think I would look good with a shaved head. So my question to you, Kath, and to Christy is, would you ever consider shaving your heads?
Thank you for asking, John. Unless it was for some medically induced purpose, I would say I'm kind of attached to hair. Christy?
I'm with Kath.
Okay.
You would not.
I would not.
Even as a fashion statement.
No,
like
because here's the thing. I think you have to have a certain
head.
Well, for sure. A certain attitude to pull that off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit like, I don't care about you, a little bit in your face. You have to have a little bit of the anti-establishment thing happening. And I just would look like such a poser.
A poser? Really? I never thought of you as a poser. Christy, what's your reasoning behind all that?
I just feel like I would look bad.
You would look bad.
Like, if we're being honest, that's just why I wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't that be a worry? Like, what if you did it and you were like, oh, that was a mistake, and then like you're kind of stuck?
Listen, I'm trying to get a man. I gotta have all my hair.
Christy Stockdale, live at 4 o'clock, trying to get a man.
She needs to use all her feminine wiles.
Right. Well, maybe you meet a bald guy and he goes, "Hey, woman of my dreams."
Maybe.
Huh?
Okay, so you mentioned Jada Pinkett Smith, who I agree looked absolutely beautiful that night. It's ironic that it ended up to be such a
train wreck,
a situation. But there's an article in New York Times from last week about head shaving, and the pictures that you see there, John. How do you feel like those women look?
I think some of them are beautiful.
Now this is going to sound a little. Well, you can tell me what you think of it. I feel like women who have some African descent are much more beautiful with a shaved head than maybe a white woman would be.
I guess that's all
you feel
individual,
like that's harsh,
right?
or like I don't mean to diss white women.
No.
I feel like there's something about you have to have a certain degree of dramatic bone structure.
High cheekbones would be nice, right?
Yeah, to make it really happen.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of us here in America are just very genetically like amalgamated, you know what I mean? And so we're kind of soft and whatever.
Right.
And so I think maybe, like me trying to pull that off would be a shame.
Well, one thing I do see, which I always love, is like you see someone who has cancer and so they lose their hair and then their friends rally around and say, we're all going to shave our heads, and there's that community, and you go, look at you guys.
Yes.
As a group, you look fabulous, right?
Yep.
And so that's a really cool thing.
What about shaving a part of your hair, Christy?
Still wouldn't do it. Like the undercut?
Yep.
Still wouldn't do it.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, John?
I like that. I was at a thing at church not that long ago, and there was a couple dressed very similar, a man and a woman, and they both had on the side of their heads super shaved. It looked very cool.
See, there you go.
Anyway, let's try it. Tomorrow, we're going to come up with shaved heads. It's on the ride home.
No, I'm not doing it.
The Ride Home with John and Kathy, a production of Salem Media Group.